Hey, Stacey.
Hi, Dean.
Stacey, so I have some hypothetical type questions for you, mostly about marketing and being a fractional CMO. But first, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I'm going to hit you with a hypothetical.
Yeah, wonderful. So, I've spent over 20 years working across the marketing lifecycle for B2B organizations. I've done everything from PR to brand strategy, go to market, innovation, always at the intersection of people and technology. I've spent the last 10 years working in HR, helping to commercialize IP and solutions
Mhm.
designed to help people thrive in their work and careers.
Okay, so here's my hypothetical. All right, um, as a fractional CMO, so you've had multiple engagements, you've talked to lots of companies, right? And when you show up, what's sort of like the worst case scenario you could show up to? You don't have to don't name a particular company, but hypothetically, what's the worst kind of scenario where you show up and say, oh, 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 that's what they want? And what's sort of the best case scenario where you show up and say, oh yeah, let's get going?
Yeah, gosh, I think the worst case scenario is when you show up and everybody's exhausted because everybody
Mm,
is just generating activity.
right.
Um, I think it's counterintuitive, but one of the first things that I'll look for and say to CEOs is stop spreading your marketing efforts across every channel.
Mhm.
The most successful clients I've worked with understand that activity doesn't equal productivity. Um, the best case scenario is when you show up and there's a team of really motivated people that are have lots of answers, but they don't know the questions to ask because
Oh,
that indicates a lack of strategy. And I think as a fractional CMO, that's what I'm really good at bringing to the table.
that's a good answer. Okay, so imagine this. It's day one. You've talked to the CEO of this company who's your new client already, but it's day one, new client, new project, new everything, right? And you get like a few minutes with the CEO, and the CEO has like a very simple question for you. And it's this. Stacey, let's imagine I'm the CEO. Stacey, you work with way more CEOs than I work with CMOs, given that you have multiple clients at any given time. Um, as the CEO, is there something I should start doing so that we get maximum value and get our money's worth out of you? Or is there anything that I've probably already been doing, but I should stop or ease back on that and let you go?
Yeah, I think um, everyone is guilty about talking about themselves. CEOs and companies are guilty about talking about themselves. The most important thing that I will let a CEO know on day one is it's not about you, it's about your customers. And the way that you can really achieve smart marketing spend is by going out and ruthlessly evaluating your channels to understand where you've got activity that's not generating productivity and making sure that everything you're doing is driven by insight driven personas. And so that you're really talking to your customer about what they need and want. And even the way that you position your brand is done in such a way that it is customer focused instead of internally focused. And that's hard because everybody likes to tell their own story.
They really do. Everyone loves to tell their own story. I tell clients, getting people to sit still so you can talk about yourself and tell them your story. It's very difficult and expensive. Getting them to sit still so you tell them their story, but with you in it, way cheaper. It works way better. I 2 weeks ago, I brought into this meeting. This company had hired a sort of a new VP so that they could add sort of a new layer of services to their product, to their like overall service. And they brought me in to write a LinkedIn post. I don't normally write, but they're an existing client. So if someone, I don't write content, I don't write social media stuff, but I write outbound, right? I interrupt people or find strangers who we can talk to. But I'm brought into this meeting because the fractional CMO, most of my work's done through fractional CMO. She says, yeah, they don't like have any experience with this. They want to like write it up. And so we get to the point and they talk about, yeah, so we've even recorded this 3-minute video or 5-minute video. And like, I'm talking to this new VP and asking them about stuff. And I say, okay, I get it. So imagine I'm the reader. Why do I care about this? and it's just crickets. They'd gone
Yeah.
through all the work and had never once thought, is anyone going to actually be interested in this? It's because they're going to pay me, and I'm not cheap. They're going to pay me to write a LinkedIn post, not very often, and no one at any point had thought, is it worth even doing this?
Yeah, yeah. Dean, I'm a big
Oh
fan
my.
of Simon Sinek and starting with your why.
Yeah.
People don't care about the how, they don't really care about the what. They really want to know, why are you talking to them? Why
Yeah.
do they care? Why are the things that you're saying going to meet their needs? And who are you as a brand? And I think, we've seen this shift towards inside out brands where people will pay more for brands that they feel like they have a personal connection to.
Yeah.
And that should be fundamentally, that is about knowing your value, knowing your proposition, but lensing it in a way that you can tell someone the problems that you're solving for them.
Oh, well. Sometimes I feel like I just have the same conversation over and over
Yeah.
with clients. Okay. So let's switch over. You're on stage, you're the speaker, 250 people in the audience. Every single one of them became a fractional CMO yesterday. They're brand new, freshly baked, just like taking their first little baby steps out into the world of fractional CMOing. Okay.
Hmm.
Finish this thought for me. When you're talking to this audience, you say, folks, you're a fractional CMO starting out. The thing you're going to be most shocked by is what?
The thing you're going to be most shocked by, I think most clients don't understand and haven't yet worked out the massive impact that AI is going to have on the workforce. What fascinates me about AI and the impact on marketing is how it's forcing us to reimagine the way that people are going to create value. As we sort of move from traditional jobs to really fluid project and outcomes based work, it's going to completely change the paradigm, right? Because success is going to start to hinge on how well have we understood the outcome of the role, and how are we starting to think about letting machines carry productivity and people create value? And I think, when I think about being a fractional chief marketing officer 15 years ago, it would have been unthinkable to let someone outside the organization drive strategy and
Mm-hmm.
use essentially your internal people to be subject matter expertise, and it's sort of working on the project and execution piece of this. And I think, as AI sort of starts to commoditize knowledge, we're going to really have to readjust what people's roles are. And I think marketing in particular, because it benefits so much from personalization, is one of the parts of the company that AI is going to have a huge impact on. And so, as a fractional CMO, it's not about looking to replace some of the things that machines can do. It really is about thinking about how you orchestrate within a group, how you pull the knowledge from the people, and then how you orchestrate the work. So I know that's a little bit different than the question that you asked,
No, that's good.
because
There is no answer. There is no right or wrong answer to that question.
yeah,
I
I
want to
just
know
I
what's
just
going
think,
to shock these folks because a lot of people become fractional CMOs every day now.
yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's our job, right, to help organizations understand this massive workforce shift and what they're going to have to do to really create highly productive teams that are able to hyper personalize some of the messaging at scale, that they've got going out, to customers.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still on stage. You're still talking to that same audience.
Yeah,
And your next topic and the thought to finish is, and one thing, one lesson that I had to learn about getting clients is what?
yeah. I think a lesson that I really had to learn is understanding what my fundamental role was. Right. I think a lot of my colleagues will go into an organization and impose their past experiences on an organization. Your role as a fractional CMO is about being a catalyst, for drawing out internal expertise and customer insights, and then providing the strategic framework to enable teams to execute. And it really is about sort of that servant leadership that is less about directing and more about orchestrating. Because as a fractional CMO, you're not there. You can't control everything. You really have to put yourself in a position to orchestrate those activities.
No, that's good. Okay, so you talk to, obviously, like we all do, um, lots of companies, lots of prospects, right? And also clients. And the thing about marketing is that, for better or for worse, and true or not, almost everyone thinks that they understand a good bit about marketing,
Yeah.
which means that ideas and tools and platforms and concepts sort of, come in and out of favor, right? Become trendy and then follow. So, like, as you're talking to people these days, when they start talking to you, what do you think they're overrating? And is there anything that you think people don't talk about enough for marketing or being fractional that's underrated? So, what's overrated right now and what's underrated, do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Dean, I think the most overrated strategy right now is broad spectrum influencer marketing.
Mm,
Everyone's talking about the influencers. And I think unless there's a really precise alignment between an influencer and your brand DNA, you're throwing away resources. You're throwing resources at borrowed authenticity. And I think as we see sort of so many channels available to use these influencers on, it's almost like I talk to CEOs who have FOMO about missing out on being on TikTok,
yeah,
missing out on being on Instagram. And I think, the idea of influencer strategy is really appealing because it's compelling and it's a great way to create credibility. But I just think that isn't always lasting credibility, and it's more important to build that authenticity through your own brand, and the way that you're creating experiences for your employees. I think what's really underrated, and this is maybe a little bit of an outsider point of view, it's the integration of change management principles into marketing. The most
mm,
successful campaigns that I've led weren't just about the external messaging. It was how do you get the people in the organization to understand their role in delivering the brand promise. And I think marketing has such a unique opportunity to be storytellers within an organization and to help not only sell the product and reach the customer and service the customer, but be stewards of the brand. So I really think that, organizations need to put more focus on how they're telling that story internally and then how they're creating
right.
experiences so that people believe that story.
So, what is marketing?
What is marketing? Marketing is the most strategic thing you do for your business.
Yeah.
Marketing is what makes everything else work if you're doing it correctly.
I heard this. I was listening to this podcast. A marketing guy from the UK was on there, and he was. They sort of asked him, like, "What's the ROI on marketing? Like, how do people prove it?" And he says, "Oh, there is no really great way to prove it, but here's how you know when your marketing is really, really great. If your marketing is very strong, uh, the entire rest of the company gets to play the game of capitalism on easy mode.
It's
Phone calls
great.
get accepted. People know who you are. You could, like he said, the head of Nike could call into a company that makes like thermoses or socks or baby clothes, and or it could call into a company that makes cars, and the call would get put through because they know. And it's not about being a broad consumer band. It's just that in your area, in your field, right? If marketing is very good, if they're on their game, they know what they're doing, and they're talking at and to the right people. He said sales, distribution, executive team, manufacturing, operations, HR. Everybody gets to play the game on easy mode if marketing is doing great. He said that's the
Yeah.
ROI of marketing.
You know what, Dean? I couldn't agree more. One of the
Yeah,
first things that I do with my clients is take them through a revenue discussion and really understand, the business model and where they're deriving revenue. Because if you really have to have sight to all parts of the organization,
yeah.
and then your focus is to create your why that is internal and external. So, you're touching sales, you're touching HR, you're touching every aspect to create something that is authentic, and sort of all encompassing. And so I love what he's saying because sticky brands are sticky brands to to everybody. It's capturing people's imagination and being able to articulate what the brand can do for someone else.
Okay, so also, let's get back to prospects then. You're talking to lots of companies, some of them you did bring on as clients, many you don't. Doesn't work out for one reason or the other. As you're talking to a prospective client, or if you're the CEO of a company and you're talking about, to a fractional CMO, what's a red flag for a potential client and what's a green flag for a potential client?
Yeah, I'll tell you the biggest red flag for me is if the C-suite executives can't make time for strategic marketing
Mm,
discussions. That is such an indication that in their mind, marketing isn't viewed as a driver for growth, it's viewed as a cost center. And those tend to be clients that just it's really hard to be successful with. Um, I think the biggest green flag right now is um, organizations that are already thinking about data utilization throughout their life cycle. So, that upfront is about you know, understanding client desirability. It's understanding and tracking the success of different initiatives. And it really signals that companies are ready to make evidence-based decisions. So even if they aren't tracking necessarily the right things, if they're used to using data instead of sort of subjective decision or hierarchical decision making, that's usually a really good green flag that if you just put the right framework in place, they're going to be really successful. Uh, Yeah.
that's good. Okay, and then this has been great. Thanks very much. I love this. So these days, who should be reaching out to you, and how should they do it? What's the
Yeah.
best way to
So
get to you?
I would love to be talking to organizations that want to sustain growth or accelerate their growth, but they're just not sure how. I use a really strong methodology that goes through and does persona work. I love to take a look at brands, make sure we really understand sort of the archetype, and then the messaging framework that comes out of the work that I'll do with clients is something that we create in such a way that we can use it across sales teams, across customer service teams. I really like to work with organizations who know they have a goal, aren't sure how to get to it, and are willing to sort of engage, across multiple disciplines. And
Do
they can reach out to me at Stacey at Gemini.ai.
and uh, like, are there particular industries or size of companies that you like? The sort of your sweet spot.
I would say I work really well with companies that up to about $100 million. So I
Mhm.
love to work with sort of companies that are in the tech space, in the HR space that are sort of building their brand. When I engage with larger clients, it's much more of a go-to-market function. So there, I really like
Right.
to look at and work with companies that have a specific um, new brand or new product that they're trying to introduce.
All right, that's great. Stacey, thanks for being here. This has been fantastic. Loved it.
Yeah. Thank you, Dean. Great conversation.
Thanks. All right, bye, and thanks everyone for watching. Bye.